Today we're going to be talking about clay. What is clay? So earth clay is actually really just mud. It is a special layer of the earth that when you get it wet, or when it is wet, it sticks together, okay? And we're going to be using that to create our clay sculptures next week, okay? This clay is great for firing in the kiln. When you get it really hot, and actually the kiln is a very special oven just for clay that gets as hot as a volcano. So we'll be firing them in the kiln after we make our clay sculptures. And once we get them out of the kiln, they're hard. They're like a rock, okay? So you can turn earth clay into almost like a rock when you fire it in the kiln, okay? And then we'll have to fire it again after we paint our clay sculptures, and then it'll become shiny and colorful, okay? So that's the second step. But the first step today, we're not going to be using earth clay today. I'm going to set this aside. We're going to be using modeling clay. Now, modeling clay never gets hard, although sometimes it might seem hard. When you first take this out of the bag, it's pretty soft. But if you have used it before and it's just been sitting there in the air, it actually feels a little bit hard. But if I start to warm this up in my hands, which means I have to probably pinch and twist. Actually, that's probably the best method, pinch and twist. As I squeeze this with my fingers, this is already starting to get a lot softer because the warmth of my hand and my fingers is making it more useful. If I just hit it like this, it's as hard as a rock, okay? It feels like, man, I'll never get this soft. But if you pinch and twist like this, you'll be able to get your piece softened up so that you can use it. And today we're going to practice making our fish shape. So you're going to be kind of planning for next week. Next week we'll use the earth clay, and you will get to keep that piece. Well, I'll keep it first and fire it in the kiln. And then when it's done being cooked in the kiln, we'll get it back out and we will glaze it, which is putting a special kind of paint. So I'm trying to twist. Actually, twisting works too. If you twist, mine is starting to get softer, okay? Much more usable. When you get yours to a place where it's soft and usable, I want you to create your own fish, okay? So I've got mine kind of softened out. One of the techniques for making a fish that we're going to try next week is called, we call it a big mouth fish or a taco fish, because you start with a pancake. So I'm trying to get mine into a pancake shape here. Let me flatten it here. You start with a pancake shape. Now I'm going to take my pancake and make it into a taco, like so. And then I'm going to pinch the top. I'm going to keep my thumb in here. Pinch the top together like this in the back, okay? And this is going to be the top fins of the fish, so you can do whatever you want with that, but that can be your top fins. I'm going to make mine kind of wavy like an eel. And then the back is your tail fin. So we talked about the parts of a fish already, and the tail fin, I'm just going to keep squeezing this out, and so kind of pinching and flattening and pinching and flattening until it gets the shape I want. And then with earth clay, we're going to use score art clay, which means to make it rough, and then put some slip, which is kind of like glue. But for oil-based clay, you can actually just pinch your fins in. I can actually just pinch the side right here and pinch the side right here, and I can get some fins, okay? But we're going to learn a way to attach clay in case you want to do an attachment. With this clay, you don't have to do that. Now, for the eyes, I like to have kind of bulging eyes, so I'm going to pinch off 2 more pieces, roll them into circles, and then those are going to become my bulging fish eyes. And then if you want to give yours pupils, you can take one of the pencils that's in your supply caddy and just poke a hole right there, and it'll make it look like the pupils on your fish. You can also add some lines on your fins if you wanted to make it more decorative. Don't have to. You could draw in some scales. So scales kind of are like that curved shape like this. You could do that with your tools, or you could wait and do it with just paint it on there like that with your glaze when we glaze them, okay? Okay, so I've practiced my fish. You can use the rest of the time to just experiment around with your clay. You can make anything you want. But for sure, make sure you've got a plan in mind this week for how you're going to make your fish with earth clay. Now this clay we're not going to keep, so when we're done today we don't need to write our names on the bottom. We're just going to squish it together and we're going to put that in back in the cabinet. Okay?